Hello and welcome to a new Age of Empires 2 video. Once again, I face the combined power of my friends who are of course less experienced and less invested in this game, so that's why we traditionally make some unbalanced teams to spice things up a little and to make it interesting. And on this occasion we played 3 versus 1, somewhat of a revenge occasion, so whoever has seen my 4v1 has already seen some of these players play against, or rather with or against me, 2 of which are present here, Chainsmoker and Wondrick. They've already played with me in the 4v1, which we played on Arena. It was a rather close match. You can check it out if you want. I will put the link to that video in the description of this video, obviously. And since this game was hurled a little in the beginning because of some hiccups with the internet connection and speed of computers, I guess. We're not entirely sure what caused that. I have some more time to introduce stuff. So as I said, we have different skill levels, so this is not necessarily noob bashing or them ganging up on me unnecessarily. It's simply because we want to have fun and still play together, and it has become somewhat of a tradition within our little group to play this game together, and rather everybody against me. And so far I have not been able to actually beat my friends, so in this setup. So usually I manage to occupy them for some time, or even take on one or two, but in the end I've always lost so far. So I really hoped to get my first victory in this setup. As you see, I started with the Huns here. I choose the Huns. We had 3 civilization picks, and I enabled hidden civ picks, so nobody could see what the other parties choose. Obviously the others could explain their plans in the chat. I'm not sure to what extent they did that. I just recorded myself playing. I'm just narrating over the recording basically now. That has 2 reasons. First of all, I wanted to devote all my attention to actually playing, because I was eager to finally get a victory here. And secondly, I was on Skype with one of the players in this match, and of course I didn't want to tell him or what my plans were, or the logic of my choices in the game shouldn't really been told to him while I was playing, so that's why. And as you just saw, my enemies choose the Mongols twice, so Wondrick and Chainsmoker choose the Mongols, and the new player, or the player that has not participated in the last match that I put on YouTube, the Ghost, he choose the Goths, I believe. Yeah, it was the Goths. Anyways, I choose the Huns because the only really player to look at if you want to see what to do in a 3v1 situation on YouTube, that is theViper. Obviously I don't have these skills that theViper has, but I could check out what he did in this kind of situation, or what he does. He has multiple videos where he plays against 3 other players at the same time. So I checked out what kind of strategies he used, and which ones were successful, which ones were less so, and I thought that any kind of fast castle strategy is the way to go, at least against really lower rated players or less experienced players. If the enemies are somewhat more capable, obviously it becomes more dangerous because they can rush in a reasonable time, but these 3 I was playing against were not necessarily known to me as notorious rushers. So I thought it would be fine to go for fast castle. So, and the strategy of theViper that proved more or less successful in most occasions was to go with Huns. He played with Huns in most of these settings, and go for fast castle, and then immediately go for cav archers. So that's what I always also wanted to do here, and try to get some early harassment in, and try to prevent my enemies from actually building up, potentially taking out one early on here. I was pushing some deer to get also some eco advantage, because I knew my friends do not know how to push deer, or they don't do it. I'm fairly sure they don't do that. Anyways, that was supposed to give me some early boost. Obviously theViper also did that, but I'm not necessarily doing this to compare myself with him, or to try to get as good as him. I'm not really that ambitious. Anyways, in the beginning, obviously, there's not that much to tell about the game or about the choices I make, because this is a fairly standard build order. I went up with 27 pop in the end. I thought 26 might also be sufficient, but I thought if I can go up with a little more pop, I might be able to start producing from 3 archery rangers immediately after I go up, and that's why I went up with a little more population then. First I also thought about going for Night Rush and place town centers immediately. With the Cav Archer rush, it's not really possible because you need all the wood, so you can't really put down the 2 additional town centers right off the bat when you reach the castle age, which would be possible in a traditional like 28, 27 pop fast castle into Night Rush. That would be okay actually, because you don't need that much wood for the production of knights obviously. But for the Cav Archers, that's a whole different story. And well, I opted for the Cav Archers because they're simply cheaper with the Hunts, and they're more versatile, I think, because you can hit and run. With the Knights, it's a little trickier, I believe, and it seems they're easier to counter to me at least, because the Hunts with their Cav Archers can still somewhat hit and run in the sense of that they shoot and run back, so they can even deal with units that might counter them, like unupgraded skirms, for example, or close the distance to the skirms and shoot them from close distance, where the skirms with their minimum range can't actually engage. So that was the rationale here, and obviously I also thought if the Viper does it, it can't be all that bad, so that's why I thought this might be the way to go. Last time I played with my friends was, as I said, on Arena, and I played the Spanish there, and used Castle Drop to go for our conks, and that might also be a good option actually for such a scenario. I have another video which is only in German, unfortunately, but it's obviously still entertaining, with Stefan. He's a rather well-known player out of HD, I would say. He's also participating in some Ruby tournaments. He's one of the higher-rated players, and is certainly one of the best in the German community, I guess, on the HD version. And he had made a 4v1 with some of my viewers on one of my live streams, and there he went for exactly that. He went for Spanish, did a castle drop and some boom next to it, and went raiding with the conks. But his build was extremely tight. I'm not sure if I could do that. I probably couldn't. At least he was able to pop down, throw down the additional town centers so quickly that I thought I can pull that off. And I'm not sure if it would have been feasible if I would not be able to boom as much as him whilst producing such an expensive unit. So that's some of my thoughts behind this. So here I put down the barracks and walled myself in a little, because I knew my friends were well known for harassing early on with the scouts, and I thought they might prevent me from actually getting up my barracks in time. So better be safe than sorry. I did not wall up, by the way. Might have been a good choice, but in the end I did not do that. Also with Hunts, obviously it's a little more tricky to wall up because you don't have the houses, and usually I wall up with houses almost unknowingly. I just do it out of habit, and with the Hunts obviously that does not apply anymore. And here a Wandrick had found my scout whilst on the job, and I had to remember to send him away, or send him further, keep him on the move so I didn't lose him. Here I thought I already had quite a lot of food, so I would not struggle to actually have the 800 required when I reached the next stage, and already sent some guys to gold, and then I remembered I might as well send them to build the buildings. And you see I totally forgot to actually use my buildings as a makeshift wall off. Did not do that. Could have built them somewhere so they would actually protect me. No, I simply built them in the middle of nowhere next to my TC. It's not necessarily a big mistake, I would say, but on higher levels that might be a better choice, to actually build them somewhere where they have any additional use to just, well, their traditional use, like a blacksmith for upgrading, and the archer range obviously for the archers. So I immediately could build the next one, because I put quite a lot of villagers on food, on wood. And as I said earlier, my plan was to go with 3 archery ranges right off the bat, so I also need a lot of gold income. Not sure if I balanced the economy here well, perfectly, probably not. And here, one of my favorite moments here, he used actually one of the herd villagers from the Borlio to build that, what was it, blacksmith. And I could get the first kill here, tried to taunt him a little, and then failed to actually get the caps lock off, and didn't get the laughter off. But I think they got the idea. In the meantime, when you look at the score, my friends went for fast castle builds, similarly, I guess. At least you could see that the blue player was using the blacksmith in the market to get to the castle edge early on, and he was also warning, so he was aware that I was close by, and that he needed some protection if he wanted to actually get away with a fast castle. Not sure if he knew that I was going for a fast castle as well. He could have told from my uptimes, I guess. but generally speaking, their uptimes are obviously a little slower than mine, so maybe they're not quite as aware as to what uptimes mean in terms of strategy, so they can't really draw any conclusions from that. I don't really know. Anyways, they could have thought that I went for the fast castle, and maybe at least one of them should have flushed me with I don't know, some archers maybe to get some early harassment in. It's maybe just a lack of communication or planning on their part that none of them actually did that, because now as you see, I reach castle age at a reasonable time actually, and can get my first units out, and I have not been attacked so far. So I was my plan was so far not interrupted. So I think that's something you should do if you are in such a scenario, that you should like differentiate the approaches. One player at least should always go for the boom or wall himself in, I guess, so for like some kind of late game reassurance. But I think flushing should also be in there. Well, it was too late for that, so I started to get my cav archers out, thinking about where to attack first. Judging from the score, one rig would have been a good choice, but I knew him as almost a pure boom player, so I did not expect any aggression from him early on, and I saw the wall of coming from the ghost, and also the ghost is the Goths, so I believe the Goths were a greater threat to me in late game, or even in early imp or late castle age, than the Mongols were, because the Mongols obviously need to get going. It takes some time for them to actually become the huge threat that they are when they have massed up the Mangudai and all that. So I thought the Goths were, at least when it came to a little earlier stages of the games, more threatening to the Huns in particular, and particularly to the cav archers I went for. So that was the idea behind that, to go for the potentially most dangerous faction for the Goths.
Yes.
Obviously I had scouted that area before, knew where his main goal was, knew where his woodline was, so I had already found a good point to strike, and he did not finish his wall off entirely. He started with it, but I'm not sure if he sent another villager to continue. At least that might have been it. That might have been the villager who was supposed to secure the base, but he was too late and died a honorable death on the way. Had already prepared some skirms, so maybe he was aware that Huns meant cav archers. I mean, it's not really such a big leap, I guess. It's kind of a no-brainer, I guess. At least, I mean, I've played with the guys very often, so at some point they might figure out what kind of units I go for, and Huns are not exactly innovative with the cav archers. So I had prepared some defensive forces, but the great upside of the cav archer is obviously that it's so mobile, so I could just run away. And also I didn't check, but I assumed that the scams were not upgraded, and there were not elite scams yet, so the bonus damage they made in their Pierce armor was far below than what it should be at this stage, or could be at least. And he was starting to tower up, but that was also a little too late. Got that villager. And well, the good thing about his base layout, at least from my perspective, was obviously that he had his gold at the front, so there was a very obvious target for harassment. I should not have engaged there, I think, but at least I got him to ring the town bell, so that hurt his economy a little. If you're a beginner and watching this and wondering why, so if you ring the town bell, your entire economy idles immediately, and not only the area that is actually under attack, so you're basically sustaining much higher economic losses than you should. You should just garrison the units that are actually threatened. I think I lost this cav archers there because I didn't really send them away far enough, or his units just followed me, but I'm fairly sure that those units were goners. I believe that my second town center was a little too late. I should have maybe prioritized that over the production of units. But in hindsight, you always know more, I guess. Oh, they actually did survive. Okay, had that. But they will die eventually, I mean. I just don't know exactly when they would do that. And Chainsmoker was obviously one of the two Mongol players, so he was already collecting some stone. He had been told by his teammate that my units were in the way, or at least which kind of units I was using, and he had already prepared some skirms as well. But same goes as for the Ghost. They were unupgraded and not as mobile, obviously, and they could just harass here, push him from resources, just delay overall. At this stage, obviously, one rig had the highest score, not only because he wasn't attacked, but also because as I said, he's a boom player, so if he's left alone, he's just going to boom. But that was also the reason why I wasn't attacking him at first, because I knew he was booming, but at the same time I knew he was not booming all that well, so I knew that I could catch up to that. And as long as he didn't really help his teammates out, I could very well just ignore him for the time being. Wheelbarrow was also fairly late, I believe. Should have done that earlier. But I neglected my eco at home a little bit in favor of microing, and that is a devastating moment actually, because look what he's doing. He's not actually retreating his villagers, but he's standing and fighting, which was obviously not a smart choice. And he lost all of them. It's I would guess like 10 villagers maybe, and that's a lot of wood income. And suddenly his score dropped by what was it, 200 points at least. That's obviously not a smart choice, and finally I do my wheelbarrow upgrade, and soon I will also get up in a new town center. I had some trouble actually finding good spots for that. My friends actually complained about that later on, that they also didn't really find good spots to put down the new town centers, because the area was just so full of hills. But anyways, better get a town center up at a bad spot than not getting it up at all, I guess. So after all, it's okay to have one at a bad spot if you can help it. Should have checked his upgrade, because I don't even know if they had fletching, or if blue had fletching at least. Could have just stayed in, well, I think I stayed in fort. Anyways, in some occasions it's better to actually check what upgrades the enemies have to really know the odds of the fight. I did not do that. And since I knew that Chainsmoker was starting to tower up a little more and using a lot of scams, I thought maybe I can redirect my attention to one rig who has been untouched for a while. Oh well, for the entire game, to be fair. And I didn't have accuracy upgrades yet. I actually brought 3 wolves. I did not realize that, but I probably fought them myself and did not leave them to one rig to fight them. So if I remember correctly, the wolf that gets triggered by some unit walking by is going to pursue that unit until it dies. So I think it wasn't actually possible for me to trick the wolves into attacking one rig. At this time, I think my mass of calf archers was starting to really pay off, and my raids were getting really strong. I got a lot of villager kills that, especially for blue, of course. If you just saw before, I had placed them next to the secondary wood line, the one he moved to after I harassed the first one. Speaking of wood lines, I totally neglected moving mine a little further, and I was obviously notoriously short on wood because of the high demand. Should have done that earlier. But I'm not as good in multitasking as higher rated players are, obviously, so that is understandable in this situation, I believe. The tower did get up after all. Should have moved away from there a little faster, I believe, because he has like 4 or 5 villagers in there now, so each volley could cost me like a precious cavalry archer, and I totally forgot to do bloodlines with them, so they were a little more fragile than they should be. And if I'm not mistaken, I didn't even do the first armor upgrade, so some of the upgrades I just really forgot, was just too much for me to handle at the same time. But considering that, it went fairly well. And I thought I should get some siege out and start pressuring one rig a little more, because the other 2 players were behind quite substantially already, and he had elite skirms, so some siege weapons could help me out fighting them at, well, anyways. And now I think I remembered, yeah, I remembered that I did not have bloodlines. And I somewhat lost like the control over my units. I had just spread my army so far that it was hard for me to keep track of which unit was, or which battalion, or however you want to call it, like which group. And finally some counter raiding came in. But luckily I had my calf archers in place. But I think those knights actually prevented the stable from going up. There was a forward villager, I'm not sure what that was about, but I don't think he succeeded in doing anything substantial. I just frequently checked that gold mine there to see if he maybe moved there, because he was getting gold somewhere, obviously, otherwise he couldn't make knights. And it took me some time to actually find where he was getting his gold from. You will see that later. And now I was looking for gold myself. I didn't find my actual secondary gold spot, which was to the right of my first one in the unexplored zone in the Fog of War. I think towards the end of the game I actually discovered that and felt pretty stupid about it. There's another one rather to the front. I think I will move there. Yeah, I go there. But now that some knights are on the field, it's obviously a little more risky. Should have maybe gotten some stone and maybe made a town center at least at one of those gold spots, also to increase production a little more. But still, it went fine. And there are the knights clearing out my additional gold source. And I had not any defensive forces at hand. And there obviously there's also a great imbalance in the resources I had, so that's why I made the market, sold some stuff to go up. I should have thought about getting some more gold earlier on and maybe gone to the next stage earlier. But it went as it did. I couldn't really change anything about that anymore, I guess. As I said before, the multitasking obviously takes its toll, and I, somewhat forgot some of the stuff I usually wouldn't. But it's all fun games, obviously. Now I just realized that I forgot some upgrade, and I also started thinking about a switch of units, because now I see that everybody's basically relying entirely on the skirms, and that's why I thought maybe I should not go for heavy cover, just because that's exactly what they would expect me to do, and maybe just go for knights instead. So that's why I was bringing down a second stable for the time being, and doing some upgrades for the knights as well, bringing more stables in. A switch of units is maybe in such situation not a bad idea, since I was also losing a lot of cav archers. I think I totally forgot to pay attention to my attack on one rig, so I lost most of them. So it wasn't really all that bad that I didn't upgrade them or decided to switch units. And since skirms can't really do anything against knights, even less against cavaliers, obviously, in that sense I could catch them off guard. At least that was the thought behind that. Yeah, I should have grouped up the buildings, because now it was like a clusterfuck of units just going wherever. And now if you pay attention to the minimap, in the lower right corner you can see the slight yellow spot. That's where my secondary gold mine actually was, but I did not realize that yet. And I was lacking obviously a lot of upgrades. Now looking at it, I should maybe just have built a second blacksmith to get the upgrades earlier, and get my knights upgraded. And as you see, I really just left my army to die at one big space. I think it at least distracted him, but he got up 2 castles if I remember correctly. So obviously my castle age units are not really suited for fighting that, unless I would have brought some rams, which I didn't. That's why all of them died. Hadn't paid his woodline a visit in quite a while, so I thought I should pay him a visit. I know my lack of gold also concerned me a little. I thought I needed to actually take over some of the growth of my enemies. I had pressured the blue mine, the main gold mine of blue, for quite a while, so I thought if I take out his main base, or his town, the only town center I knew of was obviously the main town center, so his base, I guess, not his main base, I could take over his gold, and in between me and him there was also the spot up there where I just built the castle where 2 additional gold mines are, so I had to expand now because I was running a little low. And had to obviously get the expensive paladin upgrade at some point as well. But against the cavalier, he could not really do anything with the army composition he had chosen, and considering he was harassed the most by me, it's not surprising that he couldn't really defend against it anymore. At this point he should have really gotten some support from his teammates, maybe some camels, because obviously both of his teammates were Mongols, and the Mongols got camels. Both still in the castle age, but still Mongols get the camels get a bonus damage against the cavaliers and the cavalry archers. So if you get them messed up somewhere, they can at least be of some use, I guess. Not sure if I actually would or make them at this situation. Just some thought that just popped up. But they should have done something. They should have helped him somehow. Which mostly directed at Warrenrick, because I obviously attacked Chainsmoker far more often than I attacked Warrenrick, or more heavily, I guess. And also start extending some stone, because I mean, as a hunt player, you don't really need castles all that often, at least not for military production, or for I just build it for defense and to make some trebuchets, get rid of the castles. But in this base, the ram was more than enough, I guess, and some cavaliers could clean up the army entirely. Equilibrium balance was still a problem, but I was quite far ahead at this point, so not really such a big deal anymore. And since I was sure that the ghost was, well, dying for sure, I started moving on to the next one to get Chainsmoker out of the equation as well. Because in a one-on-one situation, there's obviously not much one of these players can do, since they're not that experienced. And yeah, I thought Warrenrick is the strongest in this situation, but since he really didn't show any sense of actually pressuring me, I could take out his teammates whilst not really feeling pressured by him. And that's exactly how it played out. I believe I was still missing some blacksmith upgrades here. I was still slow on that. But I finally start stealing or taking over the gold I just freed up from the ghost. I had a town center here to grab those 2 mines as well. And discovered that there's actually a blue town center, or parts of the blue economy, in the light blue base, in the teal base. Finally getting blast furnace here, so getting close to full upgraded. Still missing paladin upgrade though, but obviously I could not afford that, and I prioritized producing units, and it worked out fine as you can see here. Some more final knights, like a final push by him, or I mean, he had some more economy in Chainsmoker's base, so maybe that knight was fueled by the resources he gathered back there. Not sure, because I'm not watching this from a replay perspective. I can't really check all of that stuff. For the last video I did on this occasion, so where I played 4 versus 1 on Arena, I actually used it with the spectator dashboard, or was it overlay, like one of these 2 mods. One of them is superior, it's like one of them actually shows the research times correctly and all that, but well, anyways, I was using that last time to check out what the other players were doing as well, so but I thought this time was interesting to actually show some of my perspective, also to criticize a little more which is decisions I made and which could have been better, stuff like that. Now finally I got the paladin upgrade. But I think at this stage it wasn't really all that necessary anymore. I was already starting to look where blue was getting his resources from, so I was starting to scout for any hidden bases. Because, well, if we're honest, both Chainsmoker and the Ghost were out of the equation at this point. So it was only a matter of delivering the final blow to Warrenrick as well. There was another town center. I have to say, my friends are notoriously known for delaying the end of the game, but it's also a fun thing about playing together with friends, obviously, that you don't really give them like anything. You don't want them to win at all costs. You play until your last man. And Chainsmoker is known for that attitude as well. He's not giving up. He has the fighting spirit. Now I was just making some more forward buildings to put the pressure really on Warrenrick, obviously. Getting some traps out to deal with his castles. Finally had my paladins, so I could start moving in now with all my army. I think I left some behind to clear up some of the leftover buildings, because you never know. And finally, Blue, or the ghost, decided to use his remaining buildings to actually save them. Found another wolf there. I found quite a lot of them. There's another one, which I've counted. Anyways, 4 traps is more than enough to take down a building, I guess, or a castle. I'm not entirely sure why Warnrick went for so many trash units. We see we has a lot of skirms and a lot of hussars still. Hussars, like, I mean, if you play with the Mongols, hussars obviously not a bad choice, but if you prioritize getting a lot of those Mangudai out, because in mass Mangudais they could actually deal with my army comp at this point, because I had not really army composition, so to speak. I was going for mono paladins. It's, some camels, some Mangudai. If messed up into cornered, should be able to deal with that, but obviously it was also economically too far behind to upgrade his units far enough to be a threat. Not sure why I got guilds here. I mean, I had freed up so much gold here. I had conquered so much territory that it wasn't really necessary, I guess. Maybe it's also a reflex, because in late game I tend to sell a lot. That was not actually something I wanted to do. I didn't want to research atheism. I just wanted to check how much spies would cost me at this point, because I felt like they were starting to hide, and also the ghost was starting to troll a little. So I thought he might have some forward barracks or something, just to spam some spearmen and just to be annoying. But obviously at this stage it was already over. There was not really any way that they could still win at this stage, and I was already feeling somewhat victorious. Finally my first victory in this setup, finally getting the better of my friends in this unbalanced teams setup. And there's the first resign, the other 2 following soon. The last to give up, I can already spoil that, I guess. Will be our play in the teal, Jade Smoker. I could not afford spies quite yet, so I couldn't really find out where he was hiding, but then he found me instead. So I found he had built up right where I cleared out ghost space. And now it was just a matter of moving all my units there and finishing the job, really. Luckily I had built a castle there already, so get the traps out fast. Not that I really needed traps. I mean, Master Paladins can deal with castles just fine if they're not really pressured. Maybe in this situation it was already paying off that I researched guilds, because I was selling resources to buy spies at some point, because I thought I didn't really want to like scout the entire map over and over again until I found the last villager. Basically not necessarily useful in this situation, or necessary even. Just villagers punching at it. I think now I should have enough gold to buy spies, yes. So I killed some units, and there we see the last few enclaves are up there and in the lower corner, so game is soon over. I'm quite sure why I sent the paladin up there to clear some more of Orange's units. Maybe just to increase my kill count and make it seem impressive. I don't know. well, there was the GG from Chainsmoker, or the resignation at least. You can see me scrolling about the map a little more, but I think I showed the achievements quite soon, so I will still cover that in this video, and then you can see in the end of the video you will see some recommendations, some videos, one of which will be the Viper videos, so I think I should put in 2, and the last match I played with my friends, the 4v1, I would put those in the end card. After the achievements are shown, not sure how long that will take, so I just assume that some time around here the videos should show up on the screen. You could click on them, and in the middle there should also be the button where you can subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and you find some more videos that you might like on my channel.